These are some Iraqi Dinar Guru updates, starting off with Mountain Goat, and this is from the 4th yesterday. Says, we read in articles today that the post-war DFI fund and its process is also no longer in effect. This means that oil revenues no longer have to be placed under U.S. Treasury accounts in New York City. These remaining dollars will now be transported from the Federal Reserve Bank in New York City to Baghdad, Iraq, CBI, yet more signs of yet more signs of full sovereignty, not just on paper, but tangible evidence we can see by events. The sovereignty of their currency is also coming and on the near horizon. Wow, we have waited so long to hear this good news. Frank 26 has an article, quote, the Central Bank of Iraq clarifies the mechanism for depositing oil revenues abroad. Frank says the DFI was part of something called the Executive Order 13303. President Bush signed Executive Order 13303. Clinton, Trump, Biden resigned it. Guess what? Executive Order 133 has not been resigned. All right, Pimpy says if the Iraqi dinar is redenominated, that's when they lop off the zeros, delete the zeros, reduce the zeros, remove the zeros, call it whatever you want. They're all the same thing. Pimpy says redenomination of a currency involves changing the face value of the currency by dropping the zeros from the existing notes and issuing new currency at a lower nominal value. The nominal value of 25,000 is 25,000 single dinars on one note. If we do a redenomination, we remove the zeros off the currency, then they have to make a whole new, smaller denominations, most likely going to have 1, 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100 dinar. So instead of having 25,000 written across the bill, it's only going to be 25. If Iraq increases the exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar, if Iraq increases the exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar, this is different. A redenomination will have a slight effect, if at all, versus changing the exchange rate increases currency value, increases the purchasing power for the Iraqis. All right, Sampson says the office, or has a quote, actually, the office of the Grand Ayatollah Sistani expects next Wednesday, April 10th, the first day of Eid al-Fitr. Mark Z has a question. Mark, do you think this will happen before 2025? Mark says, yes, I do. I don't think we will get anywhere close to 2025 before it happens, but nobody knows the exact timing. All right, Militia Man says raising the value of your currency is going to help to make it easier for sustainable development and deducing the phenomenon of cash. In other words, if you have 1-to-1 ratio, you have a significant reduction in cash, do you not? I think you do. It was at a previous era, for instance, $2.80, $3.22. Wouldn't that be a phenomenon of less cash in the economy? Of course it would. All right, Frank 26 says, Sidani said to his citizens before the end of Ramadan, before the start of Eid, it is my desire to make a major announcement. Ramadan comes to the end on the 8th of April. On the 9th, Eid starts. From the 9th to the 11th, we have amazing window to study. I'm sorry, my screen keeps blanking out. To study and to see what happens with our investment, because on the 15th, Sidani will go to Washington, D.C. to see the President of the United States. Walking Stick Executive Order 13303 was the protection of the DFI funds of their oil money, all protected by United States of America. No one could sue Iraq. Now it's different. This executive order has come to an end. Iraq's new currency exchange rate is under DFI funds. 13303 was not signed. This is good. It is fantastic because as long as the executive order was in place, Iraq could not reinstate its currency. All right, Nader from the Mideast says in 2001 they declare war with Iraq. There's a difference between ceasefire and the war is finished. For now, it's ceasefire. No one declared the end of the war in Iraq. You see the coalition forces still there. You see the army, maybe not a lot, but they're still there. For Iraq to be free, everybody has to get out of there. Any decisions Iraq made, anything Iraq does, the United States have to say yes, you can do it or not. The war didn't end. That's why you see Sadani coming out on the 15th of this month, coming up to talk about the coalition to get out of Iraq. Pimpy question, do you think the war is finished with Iraq or not? Pimpy says because the war powers are still available to Biden, technically the war is not ended there. Until the war powers are removed from the president, technically we're still at war and you're still an occupied country. Technically, we are still at war with Iraq. And lastly, Frank26 says, you know how close you are to this. If you're not as close to being prepared, good luck.